Hello everybody and welcome to the Australia Marketplace Online. We're going to give you a little bit of a glimpse of Aboriginal Australia. And I'm right here in Sydney, and this is home of the Gadigal, the Camaragal and many other clans of what is now known as the Eora. And when you do get to visit Australia, although we are one country, we are many different nations. And First Nations people, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, have hundreds of different language groups. You may hear Ginagay, Yama, or my own language, Jingua. Lots of different ways of saying hello and welcoming you to country. We also acknowledge that we are on the country of different First Nations people. But wherever you're visiting, there are some amazing landscapes, some absolutely beautiful experiences, and so many amazing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to meet and experience this country with. You can go to the Tourism Australia website and discover Aboriginal experiences for a little bit more information about some of these experiences. When you do get a chance to visit, really get involved and get immersed in our country and our landscapes, whether you're in the snow, whether you're in the desert, whether you're visiting the rainforest or the reef. There is something for everybody to experience. And our First Nations people are so willing to share their experiences and their love of country with you. In acknowledging country, we may use the local language group. In this case, as I said, Camaragal. And the Camaragal may say Ungun Gamanial, Tali Norangun, Pani Jamaica, Tiakala Nial. We extend our hand in friendship and walk together as brother and sister. In my language, I might say Jingwa, Walwalo Bayan. And I'll leave you with a little song that just brings us all together in these really interesting and very strange times, I might say. But it basically means let's come together and let's hold fast. Jinga walwalo bayanwa jinga gormarma gokornoma jinga walwalo bayanwa jinga gormarma na gokornoma go. Again, enjoy the Tourism Australia website and the Australia Marketplace Online.
Welcome everybody to Australia Marketplace Online for the UK and Europe. My name's Sally Cope, I'm based here in London and I'm joined by my colleague Eva Saller in Frankfurt. Morning Eva.
Good morning.
This is the second of these events being hosted by Tourism Australia around the world. 2 weeks ago, our colleagues hosted the inaugural Australia Marketplace Online in North America and overwhelmingly received positive feedback from all the participants. Tourism is definitely a people industry and the primary purpose of this event is to enable people to connect. Registered for our event this week, we have 300 Australian products from all the states and territories, 170 travel agencies and tour operators from across the UK and Europe, and 30 media attending. So together we have over 8,000 pre-scheduled appointments planned over the 3 days. I'd like to acknowledge that we're celebrating Nadoc Week in Australia this week. Nadoc Week is an annual week of festivities in Australia that celebrates the history, culture and achievements of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Typically it's held in July, but due to the impact of COVID-19, it was delayed this year until now. Nadoc is celebrated not only in Indigenous communities, but by all Australians from all walks of life. It's fitting to note that we have 8 seller businesses representing over 50 Aboriginal experiences across the country here with us at Australian Marketplace Online. So sharing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history, heritage and culture is a key part of Tourism Australia's focus. And in doing so, we acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community, and we pay respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders, past, present and emerging. Before we get started with this morning's session, here's a summary of what's on today. Appointments start at 8 AM Greenwich Mean Time, so please note the platform we're using is set to GMT throughout. The last appointment today completes just before 11 AM, giving you a 15-minute break before our next conference session when Penny Rafferty, Tourism Australia's Head of sustainability, we'll be talking to Justin Watteridge, Managing Director at Steps Travel, about travelling better. Before I hand over to Eva, please note the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to submit your questions throughout, and we'll aim to address those before we finish. This session is being recorded and can be watched on demand via the Marketplace platform. Thanks, Eva.
Thank you so much, Sally. And it wouldn't be an event with me present if I didn't start with my Guten Tag, Bonjour, Buongiorno. And I am absolutely thrilled and delighted to be here for the kickoff of this first Australia Marketplace Online UK Europe. I'm sure it's the same for you, but watching the Welcome to Country, knowing that I will be connecting with many of you over the next 3 days, gives me a real sense of excitement and a sense of purpose of what I've been missing over the last few weeks. I am really impressed with the numbers that Sally quoted earlier on, and I would like to say a massive big thank you to you all for extending that hand of friendship to each other at a time that is probably harder than anything we have experienced in our business lives, and we are there for each other, which is so important. Sally has already given us an overview of what's on today, and I would just like to reference a bit the program that's on around the actual appointment sessions. So we have 4 conference sessions at the beginning and the end of each Marketplace day. So we're starting today with the Travel Better session with Penny Rafferty. Tomorrow morning, we start with the Mindful session, which I personally look very much forward to with Ray Good. Then we have a COVID-safe travel panel hosted by our colleague Lee Sorensen, and also a Future of Aviation panel, which will be hosted by our colleague Andrew Hogg. There's also a great series of videos on demand, which you can watch, which are taken from the Live from Oz series we conducted earlier in the year. And there you can do something for your fitness, look at culinary experiences, hear some Dreamtime stories, or have some wildlife interactions. So enjoy those at any point in time and to take you back to Australia. For all those of you that know me, you know that I love a good selfie. So I would also encourage you to go to the photo booth on the virtual event platform, take a selfie and share that on social media, please. Enough of all that. I'm absolutely delighted now to announce and introduce our first speaker of the day, our Managing Director, Pip Harrison. Pip has taken this role at an interesting time, at around about September 2019, and I am personally convinced that neither Pip nor any of us knew what an interesting and challenging year was lying ahead of us. And I can say that without a doubt, Pip has shown tremendous and exemplary leadership to the Australian industry, but also to all of us at Tourism Australia at this time of crisis, challenge, but also opportunities for the future. So without further ado, I would like to hand over to Pip for some opening remarks to the Marketplace event. Thank you, Pip.
Well, thank you, Eva. That was a lovely introduction, and it's wonderful to be here. I wish we could be together in person, but alas, that's what this year is about, which is making the most of the opportunities that we do have. And as Sally referenced, we just wrapped on the US Marketplace Online, and it was just so lovely to see all of the connections there, and just the way that it reinvigorated our connections with each other, because it is so important at this time. We are a people business, and it's really important that we maintain those connections until the day that we can kind of connect again in person. And what a turnout. We've got 302 buyers here, which is just sellers, sorry, who really want to tell the 172 buyers here some of the great things that we still have going on in Australia. We're keeping the lights on, we're keeping everything going to our best ability, because we can't wait to have you back here again. We are very focused on keeping the industry alive with domestic tourism at the moment, but please be assured that we do not have our eye off international markets. We will not recover as an industry until until international borders are open again. And there is nobody more than myself and our teams that really can't wait for that to happen and are really working towards that day. But in the meantime, we are committed to these markets. We are doing the marketing that is appropriate because it is such a long-term, I don't need to tell you, it's such a long-term business, you know. Business that we are turning on today is going to travel in, you know, as soon as it can in 21, 22. And it's really important that we do this groundwork, that we keep the salience of Australia alive, and that we keep the dream of Australia alive. And then as soon as we're ready to do so, we have really big plans for a grand reopening, to really open again with a splash. And so we are working towards that day. We can't tell you when that is, but we cannot wait for it to happen. And, you know, I just, on the point of connection, I believe that Qantas are here today, and I just wanted to acknowledge that next week, Qantas turn 100 years old. And for a lot of those 100 years, they have been flying the kangaroo route and keeping Europe and the UK and Australia connected. So it's great that they're here today to foster those connections as well. And congratulations on 100 years. We're going to play a video now, which is just reminding you of some of the cool stuff we have in Australia, and then I'm here to answer some questions.
Australia. Whoever came up with this place deserves a real pat on the back. I mean, think about it. There are birds who can laugh, mammals who can sing, waterfalls that can fall both ways, and 126 different shops that all reckon they sell the world's best pie. This is a place that took a look at the rule book and said, nah, here's a platypus. And you know the most incredible thing of all? While we wait for you, the best bits are only getting better. Imagine that.
So hopefully there's a little bit of inspiration of you as you kick off a week of appointments.
Thank you, Pip. It's great to hear from you. Great to have you here today. We appreciate it. There have been a few questions that were sent in at the start, at registration time, before we prepared or started the webinar. So the first one, which I think is on a lot of people's minds, is, does Tourism Australia intend to maintain the same level of marketing focus in the UK and European markets?
Yeah, absolutely. But I would say that we will maintain the appropriate levels of marketing. There's no point doing conversion campaigns at the moment because, you know, no one is flying and, you know, so that would be inappropriate. So we're focusing on content, we're focusing on social, we're focusing on telling Australian stories. But as soon as we have any indication that the borders are opening, we have a plan to ramp it up and go hard.
I think it's safe to say that we've invested a lot in these markets up here, haven't we? And it's the last thing we're going to do is go dark after all these years of investment.
Yeah, look, we're very long-term about this market. You know, all of these markets, we're really committed to these markets. We've been here for decades and, you know, we've never faced a pandemic like this or a dip like this, but it hasn't changed our commitment to these markets.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pip. A question I've been sent is, what do you see as the first cohorts returning to Australia when borders are open and travel possible again?
Yeah, we're doing lots of work on that at the moment. You know, we are looking at the future quite closely, and I think we're dividing the future into two different parts. You know, we've just coming to the end of our 2020 strategy, and we were looking at what's our next long-term strategy for Australia, which is out to 2030. And I think we need to divide that into two groups. And there is the couple of years over the next 1 to 2 years, which are going to be about recovery and about fishing where the fish are and looking at the opportunities as they come up. And then there's our longer term strategy. In this period, it really will be about who has more propensity to travel. And for us, that has always been the youth market, very, very important market to Australia. but also a very resilient market. So we think that the youth market will be something that a market that comes back earlier, and also VFR, so visiting friends and relatives. You know, we've never targeted them in a really specific way, but I do think that, you know, there are family connections, and gosh, haven't we all been missing family over this period? So we will be looking at the VFR market, but really, you know, we're open to looking at whatever cohorts want to travel. And I think, you know, if we do still have quarantine restrictions, when travel does start to free up, then it'll be longer term travelers who might be prepared to stay. So we're really, you know, keeping a watching brief on that and really open to any options.
I can only echo what you say on the youth sector. I know that there are so many young people who are finishing schools in extraordinary circumstances at the moment, and they are just missing out on anything that the previous generations would have done. And they've got itchy feet, they want to travel. And as you said, if there are any quarantine regulations, I think they're prepared to put up with that. So I couldn't agree more. Same on the visiting friends and families. You can't sometimes even visit them in your own country at the moment. So it would be good to actually go to a beautiful background like the one you showcase, or Sally or I, and see your family at the same time.
That's exactly right. I think there's almost or just over half of the UK visitors to Australia last year in 2019 were VFR. So it's a big market in its own right. And if we can encourage them to get moving as early starters, then they'll give confidence to people around long haul travel. So very much agree. Pip, Australia is known for its safety and security. Do you think the proposition for Australia as a destination is due to change because of this pandemic?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, Sal. And in fact, we have longitudinal study, the Consumer Demand Project, and we've just got the results back from that. And we've had a bump up in most of our metrics in terms of people considering Australia a safe and secure place, the desirability of coming to Australia and having a holiday, nature and wildlife, things that have been a barrier in the past are actually somehow turning into opportunities. So, you know, the cost, the time and the distance to get to Australia have always been barriers, but actually that seems to be a little bit flipping on its head, because people are looking to come somewhere that is relatively safe, somewhere, you know, somewhere where the pandemic is under control, where there's wide open spaces, where there is a sparse population. And so, you know, it's interesting, we've always fought those barriers, and it might be that they now become our biggest assets.
Absolutely. There has been a lot of positive media coverage in our markets as well on how Australia is handling the pandemic. So I agree with you. Something could actually turn in our favor that we've been battling for such a long time. Pippi, I guess an obvious question is, we are an island nation. So in order to get to Australia, aviation is absolutely crucial for the future of tourism to Australia. What is Tourism Australia's strategy to get aviation capacity back to 2019 levels, or at least to levels that are satisfactory to allow our visitors to come back?
Yeah, it's a really crucial part of our recovery, and we do have quite a laser focus on that, because the reality is we've lost 90% of the inbound capacity into Australia. We were doing really well with aviation. There were many, many choices. You know, I sold travel in the UK 25 years ago, and the airfares are £200 cheaper now than they were back then, you know. So it's we were just going through this golden era of aviation. We'd increased to 27 million inbound seats, 59 airlines were flying here. It was all going well. That's pretty much cut back to bare bones now, and there is going to be a lot of competition as the world's airlines restart. They're going to start smaller. Australia's always been important and strategic to the airlines that fly here, but you know, they also haven't necessarily been as profitable as other routes, just because of the amount of aircraft you need on a route because of the distance. And so we are going to have to be fairly active in encouraging the aviation restart, and it's something that we need to work together with the airlines, the airports, and with our state partners on attracting the aviation capacity to restart. So we're on it. we're on it.
Well, that's very fitting with a comment that Jeff made on the question and answers panel. I need an overseas holiday. Well, I can say we all need to come back to Australia, and the more we hear from our Aussie partners and products, see our virtual backgrounds and videos, the itchier my feet to actually get on a plane. So good to hear, and thank you very much for that, Pip. Actually, to all those of you who have got questions, please do use the question and answers panel. And we try and cover as many of those questions now during the session. But if there's anything that we don't get to, we will reach out to you personally and make sure that we respond to your question or have a discussion on that. And Jeff actually asked a question of you, Pip. Pip, do you ever see trade missions come back?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, it's a good coordinated way to come back into market and not be too onerous on our partners offshore. And you know, it's a big concentrated effort. So yes, absolutely. I can't wait to jump on one myself. So yeah, all of the things that we did in terms of connecting businesses prior, we want to get back to that. At the moment, we're looking at alternatives like this format to connect people, but we are a people business, and connecting people personally, physically, face to face. I don't know how to, maybe that's not the right word, 7 in the morning, is the best way to do that. So yeah, we will.
Fantastic. We can't wait to welcome you back here. And I actually see a question that I would like to ask Sally, because it's UK related. How are you maintaining, and Katie is asking that, how are you maintaining engagement with the UK travel trade, specifically frontline travel agents during this time? Are you ramping up training on specific products, for example, outdoor or self-drive routes, that you think may see more demand once travel resumes?
Our Aussie specialist trainer, Alison Lee, has been working tirelessly since we couldn't meet agents face to face, which, oh gosh, back in March really, and has really varied what she's been doing. Working with our state partners here in market, they've been doing the traditional Aussie specialist webinars, working with our trade media, so TTG and Travel Weekly, doing various different Facebook Live sessions and going through different channels, specialist training for more experienced agents selling Australia, and beginners training for first timers. What's been really heartening has been the engagement and how many people are very, very interested to learn more. And I think it's a real investment in the future, because some of these agents, or a lot of these agents, may have time on their hands to really dive deep into the product. So she's been working at and getting great results. So, and that will be ongoing. So it's just a matter of keeping engaged and staying as relevant as possible with the information that we're sharing with everyone.
Thank you, Sally. And I might just add, on the continent, we've gone through a similar approach. Basically, webinars have become our biggest friends at the moment, but we've also looked very carefully at what types of webinars are working and how different audiences in the different markets react between France, Italy, Germany, Switzerland, for example. And our Aussie specialist trainers, Alina, Adil, Valeria, have been very actively engaging also with tour operator partners who see an opportunity to train specifically, train reservation teams, sales teams, but also for the broader audience. And I can only echo what Sally said. It's absolutely delightful to see how many of our loyal Aussie specialists have remained with us and have actually actively been seeking this kind of training, and said it also gave them some kind of relief from the environment that they are living in at the moment. But also we've even managed to find some new Aussie specialists during this time. So it's definitely an area that is working well and that will continue to be of great importance to us all.
Absolutely.
And here's a good stat for you. The Aussie Specialist Program has 23 trainers based around the world, and they, on average, do about 32,000 agent sessions every year. Over this past year, they've done 80,000. Yeah. So it shows, A, how busy they've been, but also just the need for connection with people and the support. So thanks to everyone who's joined and supported us with those sessions.
Absolutely. So talking about trade shows, Eva, there's a very straightforward question here. Will TA attend ITB?
Thank you, Sal. And the answer has actually been taken off our hands in a way, because ITB have announced that they are not holding a real event, if you like. They're going virtual. So what we've done in our market, we've actually, before the decision came about, we've already asked ourselves the question if there is good return on investment for a show in an environment like the present. And we had almost come to the conclusion ourselves before ITB supported us that we will reach out to our B2B audience in a different form, and we'll do that across the markets in continental Europe. And at the same time, ITB have announced that they will go virtual, but they haven't announced yet what exactly that means, which platforms or offers they have. So as soon as that comes live, it's expected next week, we will investigate and see if we will join that. But rest assured, the B2B reaching out and engagement, we will definitely be assuring, even without a real ITB in 21. And
are you going to ask this question, Eva? I just saw it.
I just see Michael from Valhalla asking a question. So very nice to see that you are here, Michael. So Michael's question is, with limited capacity, how do you think we'll be going with having seats for media for the International Media Hosting Program? Will this be given priority? So shall I ask Pip for that maybe, given it's a global question?
Ask me that one. We think that it's really important to have both media and trade come to Australia. We would always rather show not tell. And so it is a huge priority of ours as soon as we're open to get people down here, and we will invest heavily in this because it's really going to be important in terms of telling the Australian story. So the answer to that is very much a yes. I think the limited seat capacity is just going to be something that we live with over the next couple of years, but it is a very big priority of ours.
Absolutely. And hopefully trade for mills as well, if we can, when we can. I think getting people back down will be a high priority.
Yeah, media and trade, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we also know that media are very keen to travel. I don't think our travel journalists have ever been at home as much as they had to recently. And I'm very pleased to see that with them not being able to travel, they actually pick up the stories that we are talking to them about. Good news stories, quirky stories, stories about Australian lifestyle that actually brightens up our days in Europe here. So that has been on top of the Aussie specialist or trade training that we referenced. That has been another big success story as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if you agree, Sally, for the UK market.
Yeah, absolutely. We have the $1 million question here, Pip. Is there any news about the international opening of borders, and is there any chance to be able to travel to Oz next year?
There's always a chance. Look, Australia is running the policy decisions about borders based on health outcomes, and nobody knows how that's going to play out at the moment. So the government, our minister came out a couple of weeks ago and said it's unlikely that there would be much connection or open borders in 2021 with some countries where the virus is fairly rampant. But they did caveat that with unless there is a significant new protocol in terms of managing COVID, or a vaccine comes up and has high efficacy. And, you know, there was some great news on that this morning. So I think the answer is we don't know. We're taking a very conservative approach here. You know, we are as keen as anyone to open the borders, but it really is going to be dictated by health outcomes.
Yeah. And
you go, Sally.
I was just going to say, Sven has kind of backed that up by saying that the closure of the international borders has made consumers reluctant about planning and booking and travelling to Australia, and what actions will TA to take away this barrier, which I guess goes to our whole strategy of keeping the brand alive, the dream alive, and we'll be going straight to more partnership activity and conversion activity as soon as we are able to. Do you agree with that, Pip?
And look, we are, I mean, we're not, in the research that we do, we're doing a lot of research at the moment because consumer sentiment is so volatile. We're doing it monthly in all of our markets and fortnightly in Australia. And what we're seeing is that there is a pent-up demand for travel in general, but also for Australian travel, and that there is just a friction there now, which is a barrier. And we do have to, you know, address that consumer confidence of will it open, will it close. I do know that once we do open the borders, we're not just going to slam them shut again. We're looking at how, you know, are we ready to manage this? And when we are ready to manage it, we'll open and we'll stay open is what the government is saying. So that should give consumers some confidence. And I think that also tour operators and airlines are all coming to the party by offering very, very flexible booking conditions at the moment, which is really helping with that. And we've seen with restrictions starting to ease here and state borders lifting that as soon as they do, people are off because, you know, people have been really missing a holiday, but also their opportunity to reconnect with family and friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
I see a question from Jeff. He says, hi from Phillip Island. How important in the post-COVID world is TA's emphasis on nature and wildlife, in brackets, and penguins?
Very important, particularly the penguins. It's always been important. It's a massive driver of tourism to Australia. It's right up there in our top 3. You know, it's going to be after this probably more important than it ever has been before. And we are seeing that coming out in our consumer research, that nature and wildlife and wanting to experience that has really seen an uptick. So yes, it's going to remain important for us.
There's a question here from another Jeff asking about Premier Aussie Specialists, and I thought it might be a good opportunity just to talk about the developments, because there's a lot of work in the background, isn't there, happening with the Aussie Specialist program. So the comment was, have you lost a number of Premier Specialists in the last year? Is this a concern, and how do you intend to deal with it?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure of the exact numbers in terms of the net. I see the net gains, and you know, our numbers are going up, but there's obviously some drop off there and some and take up as well. The Aussie Specialist program is really important to us, but we are now 3 years into that into the relaunch of that program, and I do think we need to work out how to keep people who've been on the program for a long time engaged. And so we are working on the, we're calling it ASP 2.0, funnily enough. And it really is just about being a lot snappier, shorter trainings, more topical trainings, really up to the minute kind of content, and really just making it a much more, a much easier platform to interact with. But you know what? If there's a reason why people are dropping off other than borders are closed, always really keen to hear the feedback on that and what else we can be doing or what you need from us to keep the program relevant to you and helping you sell Australia. So, you know, I would say talk to the teams and let us know if you've got any feedback on what we could be doing better in that space.
I'd also like to add to what Pip has just said. We will see some of these premiers come back once they can actually sell our destination again. We know, and I can only talk for the continent here, but that some of those, especially the Premier Aussie Specialists, who are, as their name says, so specialized in a long-haul destination like ours, they are currently doing other jobs to basically have some income. But they are doing these jobs just to live. They're not doing these jobs because they'd rather be doing them. So I know personally from various conversations that these people are on standby and they are happy to come back and be that, a Premier Aussie Specialist selling Australia. Katie has another question. She she's asking, are you still seeing any bookings come through from the UK, Europe region, even though there are no specific dates for the reopening of borders? That's obviously a tricky question for an organization that doesn't take bookings as such, but from what we hear from the industry inbound operators, and I'd probably like to throw it to both Pip and Sal, if you've got any insights to share with us here.
Jumping in, Pip. I've been speaking to some distribution partners up here who I think just because of the media, the consumer is aware of the border situation. So closer bookings for a closer end date have definitely dried up, but people are reporting that they're getting inquiries for long term as late as 2022. So there are people that want to make plans, I think, and have something to look forward to, and that in itself represents challenges, but at least it's a good, window into the future.
Yeah, I would echo that. Not many bookings per se. In fact, I don't know how you would make a booking at the moment other than really far out, but lots of searches. So we keep an eye on flight searches as one of our leading indicators for what, for consumer confidence rising or interest in Australia rising. And we have seen, that those searches are continuing. There is still interest.
Yeah, and I can, from a continental European point of view, there are some operators that have actively started looking at 22 sales because we are long planning part of the world, and they are having some success, but obviously people are quite reluctant to make that proper commitment all the way through to the booking. But there is interest for sure, and inquiries being made.
Yeah. A few people have been asking about working with partners on campaigns, and I know that there's been a lot of work done by the team in Sydney about creation of assets and everything. So, Pip, will Tourism Australia be seeking to work with partners on campaigns when the borders open?
There's an easy answer to that. It's yes. We are a partnership marketing organisation. We don't sell anything. We rely on our partners to convert the business. It's a crucial part of the consumer journey. So that's a resounding yes, absolutely.
There's a question from Tracy from Destination Perth. Her question is, with COVID cases very low in Australia, will this form part of our messaging in the future? That not only are we one of the safest places in the world, but we have had minimal community spread compared to other countries. Would like to ask Pip that question.
So we talk about this a lot. Safety and security is the number one driver when people are choosing a holiday, but it's a rational driver. It's not an emotional driver. And so while it's important, we'll never go, come here because it's safe. A, we can't necessarily guarantee that. And also B, it's very rational. So we imply it. We message it through many different channels, and it's an important factor, but it's not something we'd overtly advertise.
Okay, thank you, Pip. Sel, would you agree we've got room for a couple more?
Couple more, yes. They're rolling in. It's great.
I was going to say, but rest assured, those we don't answer, we will get back to you.
So there's one from Greg and Alice. Nice to see your faces. If the youth market is believed to be the first to return after a long time to travel together, is there I've just scrolled. Is there any room to expand the target market beyond the traditional UK European countries and further afield into Benelux and Scandi, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. We are looking at fishing where the fish are at the moment, and that's why we're working on this Tourism Futures project with BCG and just looking at every market, every cohort, and every opportunity. So yeah, I think with the youth market, there is definitely an opportunity to expand that further than our previous targets.
Absolutely.
A question from James.
Well, by the way, yeah.
How important will the Tourism Australia One Voice message be in the upcoming 12 months? And for those of you who don't know, One Voice is Tourism Australia working with our state and territory colleagues.
Do you want me to answer that one?
Yes, please.
Okay. It's always been important. I think it's really important that we front up as a country not a collection of states. And so we all collectively, you know, I think work really well together. I think we are more collegiate than we've ever been. I catch up with the CEOs of all of the states every couple of weeks, as do many colleagues across all parts of the organisation, because I do think that we have a big hole to get out of, and we've got to do that. And it's more important that we're aligned than ever. And that's not just rhetoric or saying what people want to hear. It's really, really important, and we're really committed to that.
Yeah, I agree. We even physically co-locate here in London. We work so closely together with all the STOs, and the data out of this market, I think the average UK itinerary visits 2.4 states. So that's the way people travel, absolutely.
Shall we use Paul Cooper's question as the last one, Sal?
Okay, go for it.
So Paul is asking, nice to see you, Paul, by the way. The US market was talking about travel pods with families who have not seen each other for a long time to travel together, so they catch up and travel at the same time. Is there a similar pattern in the UK and Europe? And maybe, Sally, you want to start us answering that one?
Sorry, you caught me while I was reading.
Oh, sorry. No worries at all. It's hard, that double act, isn't it? So
you know what? We would never have done the CNN broadcast of the let me tell you. Sorry, Eva, do you have a response to that? And I'll just quickly read through.
To be honest, I don't have an answer to that. I haven't heard it for the continent. Families traveling together, yes, it does happen, but I haven't heard that it's an increased trend because of COVID. What I have heard is that people are looking at those bucket lists they have had and realize that they might not always, well, that travel isn't always possible because of what we've just experienced, and that they are starting to work down that list. And if traveling with a bigger family cohort is part of that, then that would be coming up. But I haven't heard it specifically from this part of the world.
Neither have I, and I would say that it's interesting times, isn't it? Because there may be emerging trends that come out of this whole situation. Traditionally, we haven't had a big family travel market for the long haul market, but who knows what the world's going to look like. So interesting. Pip, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we sign off at the end of the day, or to start the day, sorry?
Just a thank you to all of you for fronting up and for giving up your time to be here. It's really important that we all stay connected. So I just want to applaud you for doing that. And I wanted to also send out a big thank you to the UK, Europe, and also industry event teams for pulling this together. There's actually a lot of work behind the scenes that goes on to pull this off, and I'm just really proud of them for doing this. And I hope that the next appointment schedules and events goes really, really well. And I look forward to hearing your feedback on the other side. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Pip.
No problem.
So for the questions that haven't been answered, rest assured, we've taken good note of them, and we will be getting back to you in some shape or form over the course of the next few days. We are almost there, almost ready to start our appointments. And before we do that, I would just like to run you through some final reminders for the day today. And you can also see them on your screen. So appointments will start very shortly at 8 o'clock UK time, 9 o'clock continental European time, and 7 p.m. for those of you based in Sydney. And I'm sure the rest of you can work out which time zone you're in. The appointments are each of 10 minutes in length, 8 minutes of the actual meeting, and then 2 minutes to transition to your next appointment. You will access your appointments directly from the appointment schedule when you're in the virtual platform. It's on the right-hand side of your screen when you're in the lobby. And please remember to close the chat tab in your internet browser at the end of every appointment. I have been told if you don't do that, there are some technical repercussions that are not particularly pleasant. So please close the chat tab before you move into your next appointment. And can I tell you, I will miss the voice, move on to your next appointment, which has always been a highlight of mine at ATE. There are some breaks, obviously, 10-minute breaks. There is one round at 8:50 UK time, 9:50 continental European time, and there is another round 1 hour later. So please make good use of those to either meet or do whatever you need to do during that time. And then please do not forget to join us at the end of the day for the session everybody's talking about, Travel Better, with Penny Rafferty. And I personally very much look forward to that discussion, to the update that Penny has to give as well. And then, as a final note, for any of you that have got any technical issues or need technical assistance, please go to the info desk, which is in the lobby of the virtual event space. And there are two options. There's either one for technical support, or you could also ask for a Tourism Australia staff member. And either way, we are very happy and ready to assist you. And that really is the end of this welcome session to the Australia Marketplace Online, UK, Europe. I don't know about you, Sally, but I am just itching to get to the appointments now, to have interaction, to have updates, to see how my friends are going, and to understand what's there for the future for those of you who have got future business plans.
Absolutely. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.